Yes, they didn't, but what?
I live 10 miles east of on the
If you
Arkansas River.
found out what Joel is graduating.
Ground out there.
Not a bunch. I had a farm, I sold it, but I still got about a mile of the river. But I got maybe 68, 70.
Very nice. That's a great station.
Yeah.
All right.
Friend of ours. Good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get going. Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday, March 22nd Mineland Reclamation Board meeting. Let's start with attendance. Mr. Mock,
Present.
Mr. Cook-Redmond,
Present.
Mr. Ortiz,
Present.
Mr. Singletary,
Here.
and Ms. Warren Morris.
Present.
Yes, a full board today. Get right in on this. First thing on the agenda is approval of the February 2023 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? What?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Like the pace, thank you. All right, do I hear any objections? All in favor? All right, motion passes. There you go. There are no continuations or continuances or withdrawals this week, so we'll move right into the executive office report. If you would, Mr. Mock.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Brennan, Tim Mock, Deputy Director for the Department of Natural Resources. A handful of updates this morning. We are entering into interviews for a tribal liaison position. Still hope to have that hire by mid-April. And then some might be aware in regards to the search for a Parks and Wildlife Director. After interviews last week, we had some stakeholder panel interviews as well as some staff panel interviews. Mr. Singletary served on one of the stakeholder interviews. And then meeting with the Parks and Wildlife Commission and Director Gibbs, Jeff Davis has been announced as the top finalist. Jeff is currently the Director of Conservation Policy for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. It sounds like he's excited to move to Colorado. By statute, there's a 2-week period for public notice before an offer can be made. Details can be finalized, so we'll have more formal announcement coming out the week of April 3rd. The start date for May 1st is anticipated. Just want to extend DNR and Director Gibbs appreciation to Heather Dugan for stepping up as acting director over the past 10 months during a difficult time for Parks and Wildlife and DNR, as well as the leadership team in both permanent and acting roles. And then related to Parks and Wildlife, DNR and Parks and Wildlife jointly posted a legislative analyst position to assist our legislative director, focusing exclusively on Parks and Wildlife related legislative and policy issues. Support stakeholder engagement for legislative issues and work on Parks and Wildlife specific special projects as needed. That position is advertised for a few more days here. So if you know of anybody, please direct them to myself or to the state employment website. Joint Budget Committee has wrapped up their work on the fiscal year 23-24 budget. And I believe that kicks off consideration in the legislature next week, starting, I believe, in the Senate. The JBC has been very supportive of our water-related budget items, including voting unanimously to approve the request for the Colorado River Policy and Technical Support Team. This is the 14 full-time employees and creating a Colorado River Commissioner position right under EDO. To focus specifically on the Colorado River and its compact negotiations. Legislatively, the annual Species Conservation Trust Fund bill is in the works. This transfers funds for habitat improvements, projects, research and wildlife monitoring and other priority projects for Parks and Wildlife and the Colorado Water Conservation Board. I think I also mentioned that we are working on a a legislative bill to clarify stream restoration projects. That is set to be introduced, I believe, next week. There's been a significant amount of stakeholdering. It sounds like we are starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel of making some collaborative agreements within the community to get that across the line. Severance tax for February 2023, statewide collections were 18.9 million. This was the second highest February on record since 2004. So year-to-date collections of $208.9 million. CWCB has some new appointments to its board. Greg Felt, the commissioner from Chaffee County, has been reappointed. And then Director Lorelli Cloud from Ignacio, Nathan Combs from Lahara, and Barbara Vasquez from Calgary. CWCB is going to be holding a drought summit on May 31st and June 1st at History Colorado in Denver. The agenda and speakers are being developed right now, and more details will be provided. The 2022 report on the health of Colorado's forests has been released by the State Forest Service. You can find that report on their website. And then the Colorado Geographic Naming Advisory Board. I think we all probably followed some of the news regarding the naming board and the governor's recommendation to rename Mount Evans, located in Clear Creek County, Colorado, to Mount Blue Sky. The Northern Cheyenne appealed to the U.S. Board of Geographic Names for consultation. They had submitted a separate name. And so that postponed the USBGN's decision until at least April at the earliest. We are waiting for some new members to be appointed to that board, and then we'll resume work. And when we come back, we will take up some currently pending naming proposals dealing with derogatory terms in Colorado. And that concludes my report.
Seriously, Lauren Duncan left here to do some work on the Arkansas River. What does that entail? Where does that money come from? And where does she serve? I'm just curious what's going to happen on the Arkansas.
So I'm sorry. So you're saying that she left to focus on the Arkansas?
No, she left our board, and I don't know who hired her, but somebody, she's working.
So yeah, so she has been hired by CWCB. So she's now working for the state. CWCB last legislative session was provided the ability to hire 4 FTEs in the 4 regions of Colorado, generally speaking, to assist local communities in putting together water plan grants. So providing technical expertise, a portal to working with those local communities that might not have the staff or savviness to get those kind of grant applications put together. So she's assisting with that.
Okay. So that's under the Colorado Water Conservation.
That's under Colorado Conservation Board. It was actually also related to one of our wildly important goals in which we're trying to increase the number of water plan grant applications that we receive, and specifically increase the number of applications from communities that haven't ever applied to represent 15% year over in terms of making application.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mott. And now a division director report, Ms. Brennan.
Yes, Judy Brandon, Division Director. Good morning, everyone. The board and everyone in the gallery and online. I just wanted to introduce a few people. One, a couple of our new environmental protection specialists. They get younger every year, or is it I get older? I don't know. But one of them is Joel Renfro. Joel, you want to just kind of wave your so they know who you are? There we go. And he comes to us with a bachelor's of science degree in ecological restoration. He comes from a background of work in vegetation remediation, which is, of course, a large part of what we do. So that's huge. Thank you, Joel. And then we also have Todd Jesse, who's now new in our Grand Junction office. And Todd came to us from the Revenue Silver Mine as the environmental mine manager. And he has a BS in geology and a master's in environmental management from Western State. And so we're delighted to have Todd from the Grand Junction office. And I also want to welcome our new board member.
Quint Redmond?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Are you looking at me like I'm not your board member?
It's this third meeting. Yeah. So I guess I'm an old timer.
Oh, you were online before.
Yeah, I was online.
Okay, well, now you're in person, so
Yeah. No,
let's
thank
do
you.
this officially.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so we have board member Redmond with us. He is with the Soil Conservation Service appointed him. By statute, the Department of Agriculture, Soil Conservation Service does appoint one of our board members. And in this case, it's board member Redmond, and we're so thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for serving. With the chair's permission, would you maybe just take a couple minutes to introduce yourself?
Sure. My actual name is Matthew Redmond, but I'm the 5th generation by my name, so my nickname is Quint. So my actual name is Matthew, and it shows up on Zoom as Matthew because I can't figure out how to fix it. But anyway, so my wife and I live in Keensburg. We bought a 70-acre property out there a few years back, built a home. I'm actually from Golden. I'm a native. My dad was a mines graduate. I have a bachelor's in geology from Tulane in New Orleans, and then I have a master's in urban regional planning where I met my wife at UCD, and I also have a master's in landscape architecture. And we spent many years. We've owned a private design business for 30 years doing sustainable development. And then recently we actually have 2 ag tech patents for geothermally heated trellis for growing sustainable food production and things like that. So that's how I got on the State Conservation Board for the agricultural pieces or whatever.
Very good. Thank you, board member Redmond. And I did introduce him initially, but it's different when you're online. It's just better,
Great
it's
way.
different when you're in person, you know?
Yeah.
And I just can't wait till we're all in person again.
I actually have one other piece of really good news that I can say out loud. My youngest son just got accepted to the Air Force Academy.
Whoa,
Congrats.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to Colorado College, which is
Oh,
close
okay.
in proximity, and they beat us at everything. Okay. That's all I have,
Wonderful.
Chair and board, and if anybody has questions or comments.
Questions, comments? All right, thank you both for the updates and
Thank you.
welcome officially.
Thank you.
All right, we have a no consent agenda today, correct? Well, so we'll move into enforcement hearings. The first one is file number M2000-2089. Will all those parties involved raise their hand and swear to tell the truth?
Do.
Say the word.
I do.
Those online as well? Sir, if you're online, can you hear us?
Yes, is this the Purdue site?
Yes.
Okay, I do.
And could you state your name just for those of us who can't read that little print?
Sure. Orlando Vasquez.
Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you all.
All right. Mr. Lundberg, I believe you have an update for us.
Let me get to share my screen here. All right, my name is Patrick Lindberg, and I'll be representing the division in this enforcement hearing. This enforcement hearing is for the Purdue site M2000-089 permitted to Mary Vasquez. It's for the consideration of a possible violation, cease and desist order, corrective actions, civil penalties, permit revocation, and finding the financial warranties subject to forfeiture for failure to comply with the conditions of the board's order, permit, or regulation, and for failure to submit the annual fee report and map for 2022. The Purdue site is located in Boulder County, approximately 2.5 miles north of Lyons, Colorado. It is a 110C operation for 9.7 acres for the mining of sandstone. The land ownership currently is with Christine LaFortune and Doug Ruppel. The post-mining land use is rangeland, and the financial warranty currently held is $12,500. A surety increase, SI2, was issued on July 8th, 2022 to increase the bond amount to $15,772, and that was due September 6th, 2022. As I mentioned before, it was a sandstone quarry. Using dry mining methods, no groundwater was exposed. It was to open up 1 acre pits and mine followed the sandstone beds as it went down. The mining depth varied across the site. They were to salvage topsoil, and the overburden thickness varied across the site, and no processing was supposed to occur at the site. The approved post-mining land use is rangeland. The reclamation plan was to backfill and grade the open pits to 3-to-1 slopes, replace topsoil to a minimum of 3 inches in depth, and revegetate with the approved seed mix. They were also to remove all marketable material from the site. Current site conditions. The site is inactive and mining activities and hauling away of material has not occurred for some time. Steep mining faces remain at a couple of pits located in the southeast and southwestern areas of the permit, and they require backfilling. Topsoil is required to be spread and seeded, and there remains marketable material on the site. This is a photo from the inspection from June of 2022. This is of one of the open pits at the site. And this is a typical photo of material that remains stacked at the site. A chronology that got us here today. June 9th, 2022, the division performed a monitoring inspection and found that the currently held financial warranty was inadequate to reclaim the site in accordance with the approved reclamation plan. On October 5th, 2022, the annual fee report and map was overdue and a notice was sent to the permittee. December 4th, 2022 was the 60-day past due notice that the annual fee was due. And currently the annual fee report and map remain outstanding. December 8th, 2022, the board found the permittee in violation MV 2022-018 for failing to submit additional financial warranty within 60 days from the date of written notice of adjustment from the division. January 7th, 2023, the board ordered deadline for submitting the unsuspended portion of the civil penalty, $500, and the deadline to submit an amendment to the current financial warranty for the additional amount or submit a new financial warranty reflecting the increase. The unsuspended penalty and increase in financial warranty are still outstanding. January 25th, 2023, the division sent Ms. Vasquez a reason to believe violation exists letter. Reasons for violation. CRS 3432.5-124 requires the permittee to comply with the conditions of a board order. the permittee did not comply with the conditions of the board's order for violation MV 2022-018 by failing to comply with the corrective actions required by the board's order. The due date to submit the amendment to the current financial warranty for the additional amount or submit a new financial warranty was January 7th, 2023. Therefore, failure to post additional financial warranty within 60 days of notice of adjustment and failure to comply with the conditions of the board's order to correct such violation constitutes a default under the permittee's performance warranty. The permittee has failed to submit the required annual fee report and map by October 5th, 2022, which constitutes a violation pursuant to CRS 3432.5-116, parent 3, parent A, and parent B. Failure to file an annual fee report and map constitutes a default under the permittee's performance warranty. Staff recommendations. Find the permittee in violation of CRS 34-32.5-124 for failure to comply with the conditions of the board's order for violation MV 2022-018. Also, find the permittee in violation of CRS 34-32.5-116, parent 3, parent A, and parent B for failure to file the 2022 annual fee report and map. Cease and desist order. Reaffirm the cease and desist order issued by the board at the December 14th, 2022 board hearing, which prohibited any further activities on the affected lands except those activities approved by the division in writing as necessary to comply with the conditions of a board order, prevent damage to offsite areas, complete reclamation, or to protect public health and safety until the corrective actions have been resolved to the satisfaction of the division. Staff recommendations, civil penalties. For violation MV 2022-018, the board previously imposed a civil penalty of 44 days at $500 per day for a total civil penalty of $22,000. Staff recommends the board affirm the total civil penalty of $22,000 is due and payable. Staff recommendation, civil penalties continued. Regarding the outstanding 2022 annual fee report and map, the board may assess a civil penalty of $5,600 to $56,000 for 56 days of violation, 56 days being calculated between January 25th, 2023 RTB letter and the March 22nd, 2023 board hearing. Staff recommends the board assess a civil penalty for 1 day of violation at the $1,000 rate for a penalty of $1,000. Payment of this penalty will be due within 30 days of the effective date of the board order. Permit revocation. Pursuant to CRS 34-32.5-124, parent 6, parent A, upon determination after a hearing that a violation of a permit provision has occurred, the board may suspend, modify, or revoke such permit. Staff recommends the board revoke permit M 2000-089 pursuant to CRS 34-32.5-124, parent 6, parent A. Finding the financial warranty subject to forfeiture. Pursuant to CRS 34-32.5-118, parent 1, a financial warranty shall be subject to forfeiture whenever the board determines that one or more of the following circumstances exist. Parent A, The operator has violated a cease and desist order entered pursuant to section 32.5-124. And if corrective action was proposed in such order, has failed to complete such corrective action, although ample time to do so has elapsed. And or parent B, the operator is in default under a performance warranty and has failed to cure such default, although the operator has been given written notice and had ample time to do so. Staff recommends the board find the financial warranty for permit number M 2000-089, subject to forfeiture pursuant to CRS 34-32.5-118, parent 1, parent A, and parent B. Staff requests the board direct staff to schedule a hearing for forfeiture of the financial warranty and send proper notice to the operator and the financial warrantor. And that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Now, excuse me, if y'all can hear me.
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
okay. Now, will I get a chance to speak as well? And can
Yes.
and just let me know when I can go ahead and just open up my
Yes.
statement here.
We will let you speak, sir. Just let us make sure the board has no questions of the DNR.
Okay.
First staff. Any
Thank you.
questions, comments to Patrick?
One second, I think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Lindbergh, just so I'm clear, regarding the outstanding 2022 annual report map and fee. And the board may assess a civil penalty of $5,600 to $56,000 for 56 days of violation. Did we ever get that annual report map and fee? Because I see the recommendation is to assess a penalty for 1 day violation at $1,000 for a penalty of $1,000.
The annual report map and fee are still outstanding for 2022.
How many days is it outstanding?
It was due October 5th of 2022. And then the 60-day grace period, if you will, expired on December 5th, 2022. And it wasn't noticed until the January 25th, 2023 RTB letter that went out. So
are we at just 1 day of violation for this?
that's all staff recommend.
Okay. So, okay, so you're actually cutting the operator a break in this recommendation.
Yes, sir.
No further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. This time, Mr. Vespas, would you like to make some comments or statements about all the proposed consequences here?
Yes, please. My name's Orlando Vasquez, representing my mother today, representing my mom, Mary Vasquez. I'm not sure if you all, I emailed all my documentation to Patrick there. So I do hope you all have some copies in front of you or your computer open there to where it shows all of the PDFs. Property went through a transition, was sold June 3rd of 2022. Property in the mining site does not have a record. Always paid my fees, mother paid her fees, submitted maps before the transition of new ownership. To go back again, the property sold to June 3rd of 2022. Violations started occurring, as Patrick stated. October 5th of 2022 and incurred up to date. I have a contract to buy and sell real estate here, and which is our contract. And if you all can turn to line item 29, the buyers had hired an attorney, and line item 29, number 1, specifies this agreement, all minerals, water rights will be overseen and written by attorney John Dent during due diligence. Down to number 3, seller to provide buyers with any pertinent information, documents pertaining to the property in the seller's possession, including but not limited to survey, environmental reports, well info, mineral and water rights and history, city, county ordinance, and communication regarding the property. So in the process of going through the property and selling before the sale, I did do all my due diligence, emailed all information over as far as surveys, the transfers of the application form for transfer of mineral permit and succession of operator, which was to where the new landowners were to fill out the packet there and take the permit into their possession. I have confirmation as far as the owners and confirmation. One of the emails here, I'm not sure if you have that on file also as well, but that was sent to Patrick. As far as April 26th, information was sent to their realtor, which is Selena Way. April 26th, it was a PDF. One of them PDF files was that application form to transfer the permit. And I stated in that the 9.9 acre permit would have to be transferred over to new ownership before the sale. And Selena Way confirmed in an email on April 26th. Thank you for the information. Also, it sounds like Orlando sent Doug a contact for Michael Johnson with Johnson Survey. We are checking into the company and with title to see if they have an old LLC or survey. If nothing is available, we will order through Johnson Survey and Landstar Survey. I have another in the process of this also as well, Land and Title. They're the one that took care of the transaction of the sale. As far as Friday, May 20th of 2022, before the sale of June 3rd, Sarah Richmond emailed me what I had sent her, and that was May 20th, and stating that the following attachment is for your review, and this is to the title company. The new owners will have to fill out the following documents in order to transfer the mining permit to their names. PDF states of Colorado, and I put number 1 are blank copies that should be filled out and submitted to the state of Colorado. PDF 2 was an example, a sample copy which was my name and my mother's name of the transition. PDF 2 number 2 is a sample copy of where the parties' names must go. My mother, Mary Vasquez, still holds the mining permit in her name. So when filling out the paperwork, Mary Vasquez needs to be listed on the state of Colorado documents along with the new owners' names. And that was confirmed by Land and Title May 20th before the sale of June 3rd. And keep following through here. And then also as well, the new landowners, Douglas J. Ruppel and Christina LaFortune on June 3rd of 2022. I have copies of where they started to fill out the application form for transfer of mineral permits and succession of operators, but failed to submit. And to go back, I have an email from Christina, because her and I were communicating, and in one of them emails, in which I had forwarded also to you all, was and it's all just hearsay, but she stated that, and it's not to throw anyone under the bus or anything, but, and I think that's where they had a change of mind. I could be wrong, but as far as filling out the paperwork, that Patrick did a site visit, walked the property, and that this all happened after June 3rd, and Patrick stated that the new landowners, buyers, were of course not responsible for the mining permit, but as far as I see, new landowners are responsible and should hold them responsible for this paperwork of the mining permit transfer, because I did all my due diligence. I have all my copies, proof, evidence, everything was submitted to Land and Title. The buyer's attorneys was aware of the mineral rights. Buyer's real estate agent was aware also as well of all my due diligence, and part of the due diligence and the confirmation from Selena Way, of course. And one of the PDF files was the application form for the transfer mineral permit and succession of operation. So I asked the board, when it was in our possession, everything was always filed on time. The fees were paid on time. And this has now just come to our attention, and it's gotten this length because of it's a new ownership. And I asked the board for any leniency to consider all this information that I have provided. Thank you.
All right, questions for Mr. Vasquez? I guess my initial, maybe it's an oversight in this load of information is, notice your email to the state in March informing that there was going to be sale of the property, but I don't see a response from the state saying one way or the other. Am I missing that piece? Sir?
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Vasquez? Mr. Vasquez, I see your email on March 6th to the state informing that there's going to be a sale of the property. Was there any response? Did you ask for clarification on transfer of that permit of the state? And where, if so, where's that information?
That I asked the state as far as for clarification of the transfer?
Yes, sir.
I did not ask the state, because the reason is that I went to your all's website, downloaded all the information. I forwarded all that information and packet over to the Land and Title as part of my due diligence. As far as due diligence, I guess when buying a piece of property where it's got an active mine, I guess that's where the buyers, other side, the buyers there, I guess they hired their attorney, and he was supposed to do their due diligence. If they failed on that part, well, the way I see it is it could have been a failure. It was a failure on their part, on the attorney's behalf. So that was something I guess he should have checked into and made the buyers aware also as well. But I was in communication with the buyers. I have email confirmations back and forth. I was clear, open with the transfer.
Okay.
Madam Chair, kind of along the real estate line question for Mr. Vasquez, if I may.
Please do.
Yep. So I'm looking at the map, which at least in my packet is page 17, and then the previous photos sort of show some residences. And I know we already talked about this case significantly. I think it was the October meeting. But did La Fortuna's, is this property within a larger parcel of land they bought?
It is. It is a 35 acre. It's 35 acre.
Okay,
Parcel.
so it's within a 35 acre parcel of it. It's
Yes.
not, I mean, obviously that's what it looks like. I just wanted to make sure that that was what I was understanding.
I guess I have one quick question. I'm not clear did the real estate transaction close? So.
It did.
New owners.
Yes, it did. And that was June 3rd. The closing was. Yes.
So. Mr. Maskus, so you, I guess you feel like you don't have an obligation because you sent in all this, all these documents and things, but you had to know that you're still the permit holder. You're the people that hold the permit. And like anything else, until that's gone, you're still a party to it, in my opinion. I mean, unless you have some other knowledge that I don't know, maybe staff has some, but it's pretty tough to just walk away and say, I don't want it anymore. Those are kind of my observation and questions, unless you can fill me in on something else that you have that I haven't seen.
Well, just all that I presented, sir. I did not walk away from the property and say, no, I don't want it anymore. The thing is, it was a time to move forward and all my due diligence. I did my part as I feel, and I forwarded everything over to Land and Title, to my real estate agent. My real estate agent made their agent aware of all what came with the property. And and of course, paperwork was started, and as far as on their end, notarized paperwork, but it was never filed to you all, because I do have a copy here in which I forwarded you all that they had it notarized also, that application form for transfer mineral permit and succession of operator. It was never forwarded to you all anymore. That's of course out of my reach. They didn't follow through with that, but the way I see it is, my perspective is, I did all of my due diligence. Land and Title, of course, charged me the fee for their transactions. So that's all, sir.
I just to follow up, I don't know how you can I'm not saying you walked away, but you did. Until you get your things in order, it's really not over, regardless of whose fault it is, because you're the ones in my opinion that have the permit, and I would be uncomfortable if I were in your shoes until that permit position was resolved. I mean, those are just, I understand and I appreciate, I've looked at all your documents, and they're extensive, but the one missing is you're showing you're out of the permit, in my opinion.
You mind clarifying that, please, sir? I'm out of the permit.
What I'm saying is you're still the permit holder.
Sure.
Mr. Vasquez, what we see as a board is several circumstances. The permittee may or may not be the surface and or mineral rights holder. They're separate pieces. You're the mineral right and surface. You can easily rent this out, and another company can rent your property out, lease your mineral rights. Another person can come in and gain that permit. So the permit does not. Do you believe that the permit transfers with the sale of the property and the mineral rights?
Yes, I do believe that, because that's what I had made aware of all parties, which is the realtors, lawyers were aware what all came with the property.
And if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you deducted that from looking at the website rather than talking directly to one of the staff for clarification on that issue?
Yeah, and forgive me, I guess it didn't occur to me. I thought it would be just as simple as sending all my due diligence to the realtors, land and title, and buyer's attorney was going to do their due diligence as far as also the mineral rights and transfer.
And I understood. I mean, but all the subsequent correspondence from the staff did not make you question that judgment? Because there's been ongoing hearings and all these other matters since the sale of the property.
Sure. Okay, so I guess your question is you're asking me after the June 3rd sale, then Patrick and I haven't been in communication since then. So yes, I have been in communication, ma'am, in regards to the permit.
I have one question, just for my clarification. What would be the instrument or the piece of paperwork that would actually transfer the permit to the new owner? Since that's a separate, there's actually that's signed by both parties, the existing permit holder, is that, and we don't
Yeah.
have that. It's not.
Yeah, the existing permittee and the proposed successor operator would have to fill out a succession of operator permit transfer form. And there's other paperwork that goes along with it, but essentially submit that to us, we review it. And then once we go through our process, we'll approve that transfer, and then there'll be an approval document. And that the new successor permittee will get basically a new permit or a new document that says they are the permit holders. And then the Vasquez's would have received a letter saying you are no longer the permittee for this site.
So there's actually a piece of documentation that releases them from
Correct.
their permit.
Yep. Yeah, and that process just was never initiated with our office, and it did not occur. So yeah, the permittee is still Mary Vasquez.
Jared, wouldn't it? I mean, you almost have an obligation to, that needs to be initiated through the existing permit holder. Somebody else like me can't come in and say, hey.
Right.
I mean, so.
Yeah, both parties have to be parties to it.
Right.
Madam Chair, Russ Means for the division, and just for clarification, because we have a couple of new board members and stuff, this is one of the reasons why the staff and also the board does not get involved in civil matters. The issue and stuff that is actually being presented is more a civil matter between Mr. Vasquez and the sellers, property sellers. We don't have any kind of jurisdiction or review of those documents. Our part starts when somebody submits a successor operator, and that includes having the right to legal access and other proofs and stuff for that we approve that. So, but over time and stuff, this isn't the first time there's been a landowner dispute that's come before the board, and historically and stuff, the board has stayed out of those kind of issues.
Thank you. Other questions of the board for either Mr. Vasquez or staff? All right, I hear a motion.
It's just a question. So if we approve your recommendation, that pretty much, yeah, that kind of ends the problem, right? And other than still somebody's gonna have to come in and take that permit. So we can get, unless you're gonna reclaim it, I guess what you're doing is putting yourself in posture that the state will reclaim the site. That's what we're worried about, is the reclamation.
That is correct. Yeah.
Comfortable, and you're comfortable with that. I mean, I'm not saying you like it, I'm just saying you're comfortable with it.
Well, I mean, that's the path that's before us. You know, if an operator fails to comply with the board's order, I mean, there was corrective actions that, the operator could have taken, and they didn't. They could have submitted the additional financial warranty, submitted the annual fee map report, get into compliance. And then they could have, worked out, these issues with the landowner, maybe worked on a permit transfer if that was still something that both parties were interested in, which we don't think it is at this point. But, he could work with the landowners to go back in and do reclamation and, proceed that way. But yeah, I mean, there hasn't been any sign of trying to get in compliance with the original problem that was cited back in June of 2022. And through another hearing process and the corrective actions outlined by the board. So, we're just kind of following the unfortunate process to permit revocation and finding the financial warranty. Yeah, which, we are under bonded. It's not by a significant amount, but we are under bonded by about $3,400 or so.
So what can we do about that? Anything?
Well, I mean, we've done what we can. We've asked for that additional warranty and it hasn't come in yet. Right.
So there would be the 12,500 surety that is in place along coupled with the penalties.
Well, the surety would be used for reclamation, but my understanding is those civil penalties are not something that we can then use to do the reclamation.
Go to the general fund.
Yes.
This is an easy one to install.
Yeah,
It's just too bad.
and Mr. Vasquez, you acknowledge receipt of all the documentation that the state has sent through time. I mean, it came to your mother, but we've got return receipts, so apparently you're very aware of the state's
I don't have it.
position.
Yeah, would you read it? Yeah. I'll second.
Now, in the packet, I see several communication from the staff in regards to this matter since July.
Yes, ma'am. And I've been trying, and the reason for that packet is, of course, is trying to resolve the issue, please.
Yet here we are today.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you open for a motion?
Open for motions.
Madam Chair, I'll make a recommendation or make a motion here. Move that the board find the permittee in violation of CRS 34-32.5-124 for failure to comply with the conditions of the board order for violation of MV-2022-018. And then we find the permittee in violation of CRS 34-32.5-116, parent 3, parent A, and parent B for failure to file the 2022 annual report, map and fee. We further move that the board reaffirm the cease and desist order issued by the board at the December 14th, 2022 board hearing, which prohibited any further activities on the affected lands except those activities approved by the division in writing as necessary to comply with the conditions of the board order, prevent damage to offsite areas, complete reclamation, or to protect public health and safety until the corrective actions have been resolved to the satisfaction of the division. In regards to violation number MV 2022-018 and the imposed civil penalty, that the board affirms that the total civil penalty is $22,000 is due and payable. And regarding the outstanding 2022 annual report, map and fee, that the board assess a civil penalty for 1 day violation at the $1,000 rate for a penalty of $1,000. Payment of this penalty will be due within 30 days of the effective date of the board order. And that pursuant to in that the board revoked permit number M-2000-089 pursuant to CRS 34-32.5-124 parent 6 parent A. And then regarding the financial warranty that's subject to forfeiture, that we recommend that the financial warranty for permit number M-2000-089 is subject to forfeiture pursuant to CRS 34-32.5-118 parent 1, parent A, and parent B. And that the board direct staff to schedule a hearing for forfeiture of the financial warranty and send proper notice to the operator and the financial warrantor.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So the staff will then work on scheduling that next hearing.
That's correct. Yeah, we'll send all the proper notices.
Thank you. All right. All right, moving on to the last enforcement hearing for the day. It is Colorado Legacy Land, file number M-1977-300. Will all the parties here swear to tell the truth?
Madam Chair, this isn't an enforcement hearing. This is going to be an update. So I got changed. It's up on the last agenda. So we're just, staff's going to give the board an update on this
Okay.
issue. So.
Perfect, thank you.
So good morning. This is Russ Maines for the division, along with Michael Cunningham. We have, and we also have Jeff Hugate and Jeannie Brandon for discussion and stuff on this issue. The division would like to provide a status report on an issue that has gained some public attention, and the board may have heard about it. In mid-February, DRMS was notified by Colorado Legacy Land, who is the operator of the Schwartzwalder mine. The permit number is M-1977-300, that they were in financial difficulties and would be unable to run the required water treatment plant this season at the mine. CLL is also the operator of the Lincoln Park Superfund site near Canyon City, which is regulated by CDPHE. The board may remember approving an amendment last year for the conceptual model regarding this mine pool. As a reminder, the Schwartzwalder mine is permitted under a 112D2 permit. The mine is located north of Golden in Jefferson County and is situated on Ralston Creek. The mining of uranium ceased in 2000, and the site has been in final reclamation since that time. Surface reclamation is nearly complete and consists of removing waste rock from the valley floor and reclaiming the excavated areas to wildlife habitat. The other primary activity occurring at the site is the treatment of the mine pool to an on-site water treatment facility. Water is pumped into from the underground workings into a water treatment system that uses reverse osmosis, and then it is discharged into Ralston Creek and ultimately into Ralston Reservoir, which provides drinking water to the cities of Denver and Arvada. The water treatment plant is operated on a seasonal basis and normally comes online in May, and then it is shut down in August and September, depending on the conditions. One of the conditions of the permit is to keep the mine pool at an elevation of 150 feet below the steep level portal. This regulatory limit was imposed by the board to ensure that the mine pool did not communicate with Ralston Creek. Based on the current rate of refill, the division would expect the mine pool would start to communicate with the alluvium sometime in June or early July of this year. DRMS holds a $7.6 million bond. The board's ability to call that bond, if necessary, is not in jeopardy, as it is a corporate surety. The insurer and DRMS have met several times, and there are no issues as of now. Based on the information provided by CLL, staff is looking at several options under our Act and rules, including conversion to a cash bond or possible forfeiture of the financial warranty in its entirety. DRMS staff conducted an inspection of the Schwartzwalder mine on March 9th. Michael Cunningham and myself, along with some inactive mines personnel, went on site to look at the overall conditions. Additionally, DRMS leadership have been in contact with CDPHE Water Quality, CDPHE Hazardous Waste, the financial warranty company, and the operator, looking at potential short and long-term options. More discussions may be forthcoming with the EPA and others as the situation is developing. There is no clear answer to this issue at this point, and each option has some certain amount of risk. But staff wants to assure the board and the public there is no current discharge to Ralston Creek, and this matter has our full attention on an almost daily basis. The division's primary objective is to ensure that the water treatment facility is operating this season and to protect Ralston Creek from being contaminated by this mine pool. UMS has also informed Denver Water and the city of Nevada of the situation. If you'll remember, they were stakeholders and stuff in that during our amendment, review and approval process. And once we have plans in place, we will keep them up to date as we move forward. This is a dynamic and complicated situation, and near constant discussions are occurring, both internally within DRMS and externally with other agencies. If the individual board members have questions, Jeannie and I are available and stuff for consultation and stuff at that point. With that, that's our update, and we'll try to answer some questions and stuff if you have them at this point. Keeping in mind the stuff that we have possible enforcement issues at hand and other negotiations going on. So.
Are there electronic or water level indicators that indicate that 150 feet and how much it's rising, especially as we get into the spring?
There's a transducer in the mine pool that can be read remotely. So in real time, the operator can let us know what that mine pool level is. Refill of the mine pool is fairly predictable in that they've got a lot of data in operating the site and know about how much it refills. So when Russ shared that, that June, July timeframe, that's when we would expect that water level is going to be above the regulatory limit. To be clear, there's not going to be a discharge out of the portal. That portal has a bulkhead on it, hydraulic bulkhead seal. But the water, this is, there's bedrock there on the valley floor, so it's going to communicate with the creek through a fracture flow system.
Yes.
Just for some historical context. Schwarzwalder is a pre-law site. I think it started operating in 1950s in SMS.
That's correct.
And then after 1977, when we had laws, then we permitted it. It's not something we would ever permit today. In a million years, we would not permit that today. And the reason, as Russ said, the reason this has literally our daily attention is because Ralston Creek pours into Ralston Reservoir, and that is a drinking water supply for both Denver Water and Arvada. Yeah. This site is epic. It has had so much attention by state regulators over many years. In fact, when I was a young lawyer at the AG's office in 2000, 23 years ago, I was representing the Haz Waste unit, and Schwarzwalder was my site. So, here it comes back again. It just keeps coming back. So the mine pool is something that just, it's got to be managed. Yeah, it just has to be managed. And so we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's a tough site. Never in a million years will we permit that site today.
Two questions. First, will this condition put any pressure on the Lincoln Park, Fremont County? I mean, is there any danger because they can't operate this one? Has that got any?
We're not too sure the relationship and stuff there. There's two different sets of bonds. The hazardous materials division of CPHE has their own bond for that site. And also there's some EPA CERCLA oversight down there. And that's one of the questions is we're looking at it more from the other angle is something down there and something going to affect our abilities. And so those are some of the conversations we're having.
And I'm sure Denver Water and Arvada are in contact with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be, I'm sure you're doing that too. So sit down and have a roundtable with them and say, let's come up with a solution to figure out something long-term and, here's some, in other words, put together a formal plan. I'm sure you're doing that. I'm just.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now, and stuff. We're working with the agencies to try to come up with a plan, and then we'll sit down with Denver Water and stuff and go over that plan and bring them in at that point. Right now, we're looking at it from our regulatory stance and stuff of what we can and can't do. And that's so that we're not proposing something and stuff that's outside of our jurisdictions. And I believe actually someone from our Vita Water and stuff wants to do public comment today, so you'll hear from them and stuff as well. But we're fully aware of them and have every intentions of engaging with them at the earliest possibility and stuff once we have a little bit better picture of what we're doing.
That's right. And Chair, as recently as yesterday, we met with Haz Waste and Water Quality at CDPHE, and we have a standing meeting with them every 2 weeks to touch base, compare notes, brainstorm, etc. The Inactive Minds program under the supervision of Jeff Graves will take it on. You know, they can hire a contractor and have that contractor run the treatment plant. And then we can use the money, the interest, hopefully from the principal we have to pay for that. But they need to get their sea legs. So we need to buy some time. You know, they just can't sashay in today and figure out how to do this. And it's not just running the mine pool, it's all the monitoring and everything else that needs to be done.
Understood.
I appreciate the transparency and, you know, bringing all potential stakeholders to the table early before, you know, this could be a bigger issue. So I think it's important you communicate that it is like, there's like historic pre-law stuff going on there. And yeah, just important the public knows that so we can think pragmatically as you all move forward carefully to make sure, you know, drinking water isn't contaminated within your purview, you know.
Yep, that's a priority.
You have to make.
So I have a question, actually, just the clarification. So the actual private permittee has failed. Yes, they are literally not in it, or are they in these discussions, or are they?
Oh, yeah.
How are they?
Yeah. Right now and stuff, we're trying to figure out some way and stuff for one of the scenarios and stuff, and that is to use some of the bond money and stuff and that to operate that system and stuff and that. Obviously, they're the ones and stuff and that would be the best to jump in at this moment. And that's not, yeah, it's not short term and stuff and that is to do that and that because they could mobilize and do things, whereas if we step in where there's a learning curve and stuff there. So, but there, that's the primary discussions and stuff that we're having and stuff is with CLL as to what kind of a scenario and stuff we could work it out and stuff where they could at least operate. And they're also looking at some other financing options and stuff to try to just get through this next season.
Just the next season. And we just met with them on Monday.
Yes.
And then there'd be a permanent solution after this season?
The permanent solution right now would be to transfer, would be to go to forfeiture and then transfer the money over to the Inactive Mines program. And then they'll hire a contractor and we'll take it over.
Run it.
So I guess the good news in this site is they have done a lot of reclamation on site and they have a
Yeah, the surface,
system in place to treat the water.
the surface is not our concern at all. Our concern right now is the mine pool. Singularly, the mine pool.
A large portion of the surface reclamation has been completed
Yeah.
there. They have one more season, if you will, and stuff, and that to finish that off. But we've made it clear and stuff that all focus has to be on the water treatment right now. And we'll worry about the finishing of surface stuff at a later date.
Yep.
And a big part of that reclamation is actually removing alluvium that has, that was historically impacted by the groundwater and stuff with the uranium in it. So they're excavating that and putting it into a cell and that and then backfilling it and reclaiming that. So all of that, a lot of that material's been, most of that material's been removed. There's just a little bit left to go.
And on-site cell?
Yes, on site.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you for the update. Will we have an update again next month, please?
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, we're planning on that.
You bet.
And as noted, if you have any questions individually and stuff, you can reach out to us and stuff. We can give you maybe some more in the weeds kind of information, so.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
all right. On to something that kind of ties into this, I guess, a little bit now, that I didn't realize it, but anyway, so the next item on the agenda, Madam Chair and stuff, is the educational segment. And so for today, what we would like to do is have a presentation on the challenges of impacts to the hydrological balance and House Bill 191113. If the board recalls, 1113 was a part of our rulemaking in May of last year. So during the semi-annual Society of Mining Engineers and Colorado Mining Association Convention, our own Michael Cunningham presented a technical discussion on these issues. We had a few board members who had expressed an interest in attending, however, they could not attend at the time of Michael's presentation. So today we thought it would be a great opportunity to have Michael do an encore presentation. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Michael. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. 1 second to get my PowerPoint set up here. All right, thanks, Russ. Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm Michael Cunningham. And I will be giving a slightly abbreviated version of a talk that I gave at the SME conference. Again, some of this will be familiar to the board as we work through our rulemaking and implementation of 1113. Of course, this is specific to the hard rock side of our act and rules. And the title of this talk was Minimizing Impacts to the Prevailing Hydrologic Balance. That, of course, is a key phrase out of our regulations that speaks to the division's broad mandate to protect hydrologic resources, both surface and groundwater. I've included this here. This is just sort of showing you the hard rock sites in Colorado, of which there's about 126 active hard rock metal mines. But only a few of those are actually producing. The distribution, of course, follows Colorado's mineral belt from southwest to northeast. And I just want to set the table for this discussion. This will look familiar to anybody who lives in Colorado or Denver. This is a graph from the Post showing population growth in our state from 1970 through 2025. We currently sit at about 5.8 million people. It's expected that our population is going to reach 6.4 million by the year 2030, with Denver seeing the lion's share of that influx, where the population is expected to grow from 3.3 to 4.4 million by the year 2050. So all of that is just to say that we continue to see this upward trend in population growth in the state, and more people in our state means a greater demand on our natural resources. The next slide is a pictogram from the World Resources Institute. They're a global nonprofit research entity. And this is, they took a look at water stress by country, projecting out 2020, 2030, and 2040. What we're looking at here is the projection out to 2040. They used an ensemble of climate models and socioeconomic factors to rank future water stress by country, which was really just a measure of competition and depletion of surface water resources. The takeaway here is that the US is sitting in that high risk category by the year 2040. And arguably there's going to be portions, localized portions of the US in the south and southwestern portions that are probably going to be at even higher risk. This next slide here, of course, well, I should say the analysis in the new Colorado Water Plan, which I think most of the board is aware of. We've heard some updates on that. It was written by a team overseen by the Colorado Water Conservation Board, and they found that cities and towns could be short 230,000 to 740,000 acre feet per year by 2050. So that is significant. The picture there on the right is Lake Mead. You can see that sort of dramatic decline in the elevation of the reservoir. And, we all read the headlines daily about the Colorado River, the compact negotiations. They're projecting that Lake Mead could reach dead pool levels as soon as 2025, at which point we're not generating electricity from that hydroelectric dam. So these are, of course, rather concerning trends that highlight the need for strong regulations concerning protection of water resources. Which brings us to House Bill 191113, titled Concerning the Protection of Water Quality from Adverse Impacts Caused by Mineral Mining. This law really raised the bar for protection of surface and groundwater resources, and I'll go into the specifics, but there were 4 broad areas that this bill touched on: self-bonding, annual reporting requirements, water quality treatment, and water quality protection covered by financial warranty. Self-bonding, in short, was eliminated. That was an option that allowed operators to submit an audited financial statement as proof that the operator had sufficient funds to perform reclamation in lieu of a bond or other financial assurance. Eliminating this did not have any meaningful impact on industry, as this was not a widely used bonding mechanism. And when considering a financial warranty, especially in the context of treatment, and even more so in the context of perpetual water treatment, really the risk of a self-bond is just, it was too high. The division prefers traditional bonding instruments such as cash, letters of credit, corporate sureties, and CDs. Real briefly, the annual reporting requirements are such that the end reports must now include the following information: changes over the preceding year regarding any disturbances to the prevailing hydrologic balance, and changes over the preceding year regarding any disturbances to the quality and quantity of water in surface and groundwater systems. This was something we had previously been doing, but now it's codified in our regulations. And so there should be, for any operation that has a groundwater or surface water monitoring program, some evaluation of that in the annual report. Typically, we will get all of that annual data and any sort of trend analysis at that time, and that'll help us assess whether or not we've got any impacts to that hydrologic balance out there. So the Act requires most reclamation plans to demonstrate by substantial evidence a reasonably foreseeable end date for any water quality treatment necessary to ensure compliance with water quality standards. This is kind of the heart of 1113 and what I want to focus this discussion on. To put a finer point on it, no perpetual water treatment is allowed. The staff cannot approve an application that would anticipate or contemplate perpetual water treatment. And so now this is in our rule 3.1.6, parent 1, parent I. And I think the board understands as well that we do have some sites that have perpetual water treatment, but none of those sites were contemplated of having that sort of treatment at the time they were permitted, or they fell into that category of being a historic mine, where some of those conditions had already been created prior to issuance of their permit, and most of those permits were issued in the late 70s. Reasonably foreseeable end date. So if a new or amended application will require water quality treatment, that applicant must demonstrate by substantial evidence a reasonably foreseeable end date for any water quality treatment necessary to ensure compliance with applicable water quality standards. I've underlined substantial evidence and reasonably foreseeable. I wanted to bring this to the board's attention because as part of the promulgation of these rules, we did not establish definitions for these terms. And without a doubt, there's going to be differing opinions on what constitutes substantial evidence, what constitutes a reasonably foreseeable end date. Somebody that might be 5 years, somebody else may look at that and say 50 years is reasonable. We have not, as of yet, really had a true test case for 1113. So we will have one soon enough. And I expect at that time, there's going to be some robust discussions about these terms and how they're applied to the review of those applications. But I'll say for division staff's part, we intend to approach this in a conservative manner. There are, of course, some exemptions to this. So a reclamation plan may be approved, which lacks substantial evidence of a reasonably foreseeable end date to water treatment if that new or amended application contains an environmental protection plan and a reclamation plan to ensure compliance with water quality standards. I'll note that the environmental protection plan, of course, is kind of the key component of a particular category of permits that we have called designated mining operations. So anybody that has a hard rock metal mine that would be contemplating water treatment, they are going to fall into this category of a DMO, and they would need to have an environmental protection plan as part of this application. So let's just talk about our exemptions, of which there are 3. The first one, the site was previously mined, but not permitted as of January 1st, 2019, that the existing water quality conditions do not meet applicable standards and no reasonably foreseeable end date for water quality treatment could be established. This could apply to both a new application or an amendment. The second exemption is for application. The application is limited to reclamation of already mined ore or other waste materials, including mine drainage runoff, as part of a cleanup. And I think as the board is aware, there are countless legacy mines and waste rock piles throughout the state. It's not uncommon that we're having conversations with different people about, how do we remedy this? How do we clean it up? How do we clean up our waterways and our drainages? And really, it's limited to you do have to have a permit. But this is something that a program director, Russ Means, is working on. And we're looking towards developing a new category of permit that might fit within this exemption. Because this is something that we would like to facilitate as a regulatory agency, be able to see some of these historic and legacy sites be cleaned up, return that land back to a beneficial use. Of course, that occurs presently through the work that the Inactive Mines program does. They do really good work out there, but there's opportunities to have other people assist with that and do that work as well. The third exemption is where water quality impacts that have occurred or are occurring for which no reasonably foreseeable end date for water quality treatment can be established. Again, were either unforeseen at the time of approval of the reclamation plan or existing at the mine site, permitted on or before January 1st, 2019. This would only apply to amendments to our existing operations. This would be the category that would be applicable to the majority of our hard rock sites that are currently treating water. I don't think that the goal of 1113 was to prevent our existing operators that may have treatment of some sort, maybe even perpetual in nature, from continuing to operate out there. But certainly it was intended to ensure that we're not making any situation worse or creating a situation that would require perpetual water treatment where one does not currently exist. So what about our operations that don't contemplate an impact to the hydrologic balance? Well, we do still have a rule that addresses that, where a proposed amendment to a reclamation plan is not anticipated to impact water quality of the hydrologic balance. The applicant operator shall submit a statement and demonstration by substantial evidence for review by the office and/or board. So it's not enough anymore to simply say we don't contemplate that there's going to be any impact and we kind of leave it there. There has to be some sort of a demonstration. What that demonstration looks like, I would anticipate is going to take different forms based on the nature of that proposed operation. In some respects, it could be a very simple demonstration. Like just look at it and say there's nothing here that could potentially impact that hydrologic balance. But I suspect and anticipate that other scenarios are going to be a little bit more complicated. There'll be a little bit of a gray area that we're going to have to work our way through. And again, we've not really had a true test case on this as of yet. So those are the rules that got promulgated from the passage of House Bill 191113. And as we look forward to these applications, I think there's going to be a challenge, and it can kind of break it out into two broad categories. Of the sites that currently treat water and have to treat it perpetually, we have treatment of the mine pool. So we've got a mine pool that is discharging or communicating with surface or groundwater resources in some manner that requires that treatment. And then the other broad category that we have is from our tailings impoundments and the leachate that comes out of those. So that's going to be a challenge, not just for division staff as we review these applications, but it's going to be a challenge for industry as well to figure out how they can continue to operate and address these particular areas of concern. I think there is some opportunities out there. In the state of Colorado, we only have a few tailings impoundments, and those are of the more traditional nature where what is placed into those impoundments is a slurry. It's got a high percentage of water. There's a lot of water management that goes along with that. Most of that water is typically reused and recycled through the mill. But again, we're going to have leachate coming out from that tailings impoundment for quite some time that needs to be captured and treated. There are different technologies that can be used to address that. Of course, most of those technologies are more expensive for industry. That would be utilizing some sort of pasted tailings, which would have a lesser level of water content. Sometimes, if the conditions are right, you can also take those pasted tails and backfill them into the underground workings of the mine. So there are some opportunities there. I think of those two challenges, the mine pool is the greater challenge to deal with. Once you create that void in the earth and it fills up with water, then that's a situation that you have to deal with forever. It's very difficult, especially in the settings where these mines are, with fracture flow systems, to predict where that water is going to go and how it's going to impact surface and groundwater resources. So we've talked about the need for substantial evidence to demonstrate a reasonably foreseeable end date to such treatment. These are some of the components that we would expect to see for substantial evidence, and each of these presently exist within our regulations. We would need to have baseline water quality data over 5 quarters, and that is built into our designated mining operation regulations. We would be doing a designated chemical evaluation, taking a look at anything and everything used at that mine site, whether it is in the removal of ore, explosives, or beneficiation at the mill. Anything and everything is fair game there. We would be doing geochemical data and analysis on ore, overburden, tailings leachate. We would need a water balance. And of course, we would be doing an environmental protection facilities evaluation. For a reminder for the board, environmental protection facilities, that's a term for any facility that's designed to hold or contain designated chemicals or acid forming or toxic producing materials. And that is specific to our designated mining operations as well. These are not easy demonstrations or analyses to make. We are looking at predictive modeling. We are trying to project out to the future with a certain level of certainty. The rules are not overly prescriptive with respect to geochemical modeling. We do have under Rule 6.4.21, parent 14, we can use tools such as mineralogical analyses, trace element analyses, major element analyses, microprobe, or other comparable analyses. In addition, we would typically be looking at both static and kinetic tests, including acid-base accounting, whole rock analysis, meteoric water mobility potential, and humidity cell tests. We've also utilized fate and transport modeling in certain situations. So any and all of these would be components that we would expect to see as part of the predictive modeling that would have to come in with these applications. Additionally, I think, we have to have a certain level of adaptive management for operations of this sort. Adaptive management is not necessarily a component that's hard baked into our regulations, but I think it's a concept that can still be applied. The models and projections will need to be revisited periodically because they are just that. They're models, they're predictions. they carry a certain level of uncertainty in them. So we want to continue to check to make sure that those models and predictions are held up over time. And we've utilized site-wide conceptual models defined by the EPA as an iterative living representation of the site that summarizes and helps project teams visualize and understand information. We've used these at several of our large metal mines with some success, and we would look to continue to utilize those on amended sites or new applications. And you have to forgive me, I've got some of my slide wasn't formatted properly, but we, as I noted, we haven't really had a true test case of this yet. We don't anticipate receiving a lot of these types of applications. As I noted, we've got 126 active metal mines compared to about 1,600 or so construction material sites. That's always kind of been the balance between the construction materials and hard rock industries in our state. But we will get them, and when we see these, there will be a heavy lift. It's going to take a lot of staff time and resources to work through this. We intend to utilize our own internal expertise to the extent that we can, but when necessary, we do have some external tools that we can utilize, including the International Network for Acid Prevention, Global Acid Rock Drainage Guide, Acid Rock Drainage Prediction Manual, and the Prediction Manual for Drainage Chemistry from Sulfidic Geologic Materials. I think these are, widely considered to be industry accepted tools. And so those are some of the external tools that we'll be utilizing. Of course, we do intend to develop our own internal guidance in time, as we learn lessons and develop those. That certainly could require additional rules be promulgated, but that would be a little bit further down the road. So there's some challenges, and where there are challenges, there's opportunities as well. And so the last thing I just want to leave the board with is sort of an example of some creative thinking on a site called the London Mine. The London Mine is located near Alma, Colorado. This is a historic mine where mining occurred from 1874 through the 1940s. They were producing gold, silver, zinc. And once they drove in that portal, that site was discharging water into South Mosquito Creek, which is tributary to the Middle Fork of the South Platte River. Prior to 2017, that discharge did not meet receiving stream standards. It was estimated about 40 pounds of zinc and cadmium were being discharged from the mine on a daily basis. In 2016, a company, Mine Water LLC, purchased this property and entered into a consent agreement with the health department to bring this mine discharge into compliance. And they did so essentially by doing some creative plumbing out there at the mine. This site has a reverse upthrust fault, which was bringing deep bedrock water up into the mine workings, the sulfidic mine workings, and that was part of the metal loading that was occurring on South Mosquito Creek. So what they did is they went out and they installed a series of deep wells that were used to pump and divert that water before it flowed through the workings of the mine. And in doing so, they were able to bring that site back into compliance with the discharge standards and really improve water quality on South Mosquito Creek. As a result, in 2018, the city of Aurora purchased 1,400 acre feet of water from the London mine. And this was non-tributary water, which is significant because that can be used to extinction, essentially. Here's just a graphic showing you that you can see my slide here. These are the deep wells that were installed to pull this bedrock water up before it came up through the fault and went through the mine into Mosquito Creek. This is a photo of the London mine. I'll note that this was probably about 2016 when I was up there and took this photo. So, the site could and likely does look a little bit different. But it was estimated that there's still about 400,000 tons of ore on the surface in the form of waste rock piles, or about $35 million in gold ore. So the benefits of this particular project, it provided non-tributary water to Colorado's growing Front Range. It improved the health of the ecosystem within South Mosquito Creek and its tributaries, and it had the added benefit of avoiding any sort of trans-basin diversion. So I just wanted to leave that there. Again, that's not to say that there's a perfect match of 1113 over this, but again, there are opportunities out there to continue to mine important resources, to produce water, and to help clean up some of the legacy effects of mining in the state of Colorado. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions from the board if you have any. Please stop sharing my screen here.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just this little note, we went up to the London mine, I can't remember, 2014, 2015. And with some little ones from Environmental Learning for Kids, which is a program to get disadvantaged youth out into the outdoors. And we planted a bunch of sapling. And then our contractor came in the next day and fixed it. but the little ones, we learned a lot. We had a lunch with learning, and they learned quite a bit about the London mine and mining and environmental restoration and so forth.
So who paid for the wells on the one?
That was the owner of that property, Mine Water LLC. How they funded that, I'm not sure, but it was they were the ones that installed those wells.
And that water was just routed around.
To overly simplify it, yes.
You put it back in the creek.
It goes, yeah, it's going right back into the creek.
Yeah. And that's how Rocky.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
No, I just shared a scientific article from Elsevier from their ecological engineering volume from May 2022, and it talks about mycorrhizae fungi application as a successful tool for worldwide mine land restoration, the current state of knowledge and the way forward. Just wanted to throw that out there as a way to, maybe foster better soil development in areas surrounding sites like this, and just help in general to bolster ecological restoration as you see more challenging, more complex efforts, the needs in certain efforts for the future. Just wanted to share that, something I came across.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Thank you for the presentation. Sorry to miss that estimate. All right. This time, we'd like to provide the public with an opportunity to address any non-agenda items. Those who are wishing to do so, would you identify yourselves first, please?
Phil. Oh. Phil Buckland.
Oh.
Empire.
I'm sorry, one more time, sir. It was kind of breaking up.
Phil Buckland, Empire, Colorado, and I'll shut my video off because I have limited bandwidth.
Thank you.
And Evelyn Rhodes from the city of Arvada.
Thank you, ma'am.
We might still want to start with Ms. Rose just because it points to source level.
Is there one more?
There's two. Yeah.
Just those two?
Yeah, and then there's also Mr. Buckland, so.
Okay.
Just have a comment for the board.
All right. Mr. Bronson?
Ms. Rhodes.
Mr. Rhodes, would you like to go first, please?
I don't quite hear you. Are you asking me to go first?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. It's hard to hear. I'm Evelyn Rhodes. I'm the Water Quality Administrator for the city of Arvada. We want to thank you to the Mine Land Reclamation Board for giving us the opportunity to express our concerns we have as a large water provider in the Front Range. And thank you also to the board and the division for recognizing the importance of the Schwarzwälder mine issue to Denver and Arvada and for their commitment to communicate with and work with us towards a long-term solution. Arvada is the 5th largest city in the Denver metro area, and our water system serves roughly 150,000 people. Ralston Reservoir is our primary water supply source, which, as noted, is located along Ralston Creek immediately downstream of Schwartzwalder Mine. One of our greatest fears with the Schwartzwalder Mine is the owner becoming insolvent and forfeiting management responsibility. If an agency is not actively reducing the water levels in the uranium mine pool, our water supply is in danger of becoming contaminated with radioactive material. In September, the compliance location for the mine's discharge permit on Ralston Creek showed an exceedance for the allowable limit for uranium. Without active and ongoing monitoring at the site, we cannot be assured that Ralston Creek is not becoming contaminated from mine overflow or groundwater seepage. In the past, we have experienced the effects of mismanagement of the mine, as well as contamination of our raw water after large rain or runoff events. And so we are very concerned about the future state of this facility. Over the last few years, the management of the mine, as well as communications among stakeholders, have been much improved under the oversight of CLL and CERO, and we thank them for that. And we would like a guaranteed smooth transition of management moving forward. We appreciate the board and CDPHE acting quickly to ensure continuity of operations at the mine pumping and treatment facility in order to protect the hundreds of thousands of people that depend on this water source. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any questions for? All right, we'll move on to Mr. Buckland. Thank you.
Are you saying Phil Buckland now?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chairman and board members and staff. I had planned to offer these comments last month in a spirit of constructive improvement on what we experienced with the Guanella Empire Reservoir Reclamation M17-534. But due to the public comment being scheduled at the end of the meeting and the weather being a factor, I'm here today. And when you know it's snowing again here today, and so it's every Wednesday. But the first comment is on Rule 2.0742, requires a written notice of decisions. 2.0743 requires a 30-day notice, but these do not account for U.S. mail deliveries. We did not receive written or formal notices of the final permit release. The time should start when delivered, not when mailed. And you've probably all heard about the problems of postal delivery in the rural mountain areas. Rule 3.0321 requires written notice to adjacent and surface owners and county commissioners, but only the county commissioners require notices to be certified. We had asked to be notified so we can make comments if desired. 3.0326 requires notices to adjacent and surface owners, but no requirements to see if it's been received. In the past, we were notified of changes via U.S. mail, which was delayed in being delivered due to U.S. postal delays. Some deadlines are missed because of mailing delays. The second item, it would be helpful to respond to written comments of the landowners. We have offered expert reports and comments by experts in the reclamation field and from former MLRB member. We also got expert comment from the USDA Farm Service Agency. We received no replies or feedback. Third item, small item, put the public comments at the beginning of the meeting where the time is controlled and limited and more inviting, and you might get more input from the public and more respectful of everybody's time. Number 4, and last, consider getting help in making the website and database more non-technical, public user friendly. I agree with Ms. Nelson last month. Asked the non-staff members to comment on the ease of the use of the website and database. We found our release letter buried in the database 7 layers down in a page of 30 documents. It basically said the reclaimed site vegetation was as good as the adjacent property that had been damaged by blowing sand from the site. Horizontal pictures were used as examples of coverage, but no vertical measurements were mentioned, and the approved seed mixture was not addressed. And in the conclusion of my comments, our concerns were that the reclamation be completed after more than 10 years. The vegetated cover has been measured at 23% versus a minimal 70%. Vegetation at the site is a monoculture, not reflective of the approved reclamation seed mixture. The site has weeds, recycled asphalt, salt, and buried debris. Final remark is, thank you. We understand the permit has now been released and we have our land back free of MLRB encumbrances after all these years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buckham. Any questions to Mr. Buckham from the video? Are there any other people wishing to make comments? Is that the two? That's it. For today. All right, Lisa. All right. Those both parties, thank you for your interest in stepping up to the plate and being involved. Everything has been recorded. We'll advance that. Any other questions or comments at this time? If not, we need to move into executive session today. No need. Therefore, this meeting, the March 2023 meeting of the Mineland Reclamation Board is adjourned.